What is up, fight fans? Welcome to my podcast, also known as the MMA Anomaly Show. I'm your host, Olin Stewart, aka MMA Anomaly, and if you're new here, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and smash that bell for notifications. I just want to go ahead and throw in that any and all video clips that I do use, assuming they don't get removed, I do not own the rights to. The rights to these video clips are owned by ESPN, ABC, Zuffa, and the UFC, so make sure that you're checking these fights out on the ESPN Plus app or on UFC Fight Pass. What is up, fight fans? Welcome back to another episode of the MMA Anomaly Show. I'm your host, Olin Stewart, aka MMA Anomaly. In today's episode, we'll be going over the aftermath of UFC Long Island, aka UFC on ABC 3, as well as what I feel should be next for the fighters that participated in the main card. So let's jump right into the main card. We'll go ahead and start at the bottom of the card and work our way to the top. So the first fight on the main card was Lucky Lauren Murphy going up against Miesha Cupcake Tate. And this fight went pretty much exactly as I thought it would go. Lauren Murphy, as usual, was counted out from the very get-go. Everybody thought that she was the underdog going in. Everybody paying attention thought that Miesha Tate was going to go out there and dominate, which makes no sense to me. Miesha Tate has looked slow and sluggish in her last 3 to 5 fights that we've seen her in, and this one was no different. It looked like she was moving in slow motion. Even when she was landing big, strong shots, it looked like they were very labored and slow shots. And Lauren Murphy is just a savage at this weight class. She's somebody that we've seen time and time again not only get discredited and counted out, but somebody that's willing to go through the fire and not afraid to get burned in order to burn somebody back, right? She takes damage to deal just a little bit more damage in return. And this fight was no different. She put on pretty dominant performance over Miesha Cupcake Tate. And what do I think should be next for these ladies? I feel like Miesha Cupcake Tate has reached that point in her career where she's a veteran, she's a pioneer, she's done so much for women's mixed martial arts, and it's just simply time to hang up the gloves. I don't see any really great matchups for her against legends or contenders that I think she fares well in, and I just think now it makes more sense than ever to officially retire for good. When it comes to Lauren Murphy, I think she actually had the perfect call out after her fight. She said it best herself. She said she wants to be sitting cage side during the fight with Manon Fiorot going in against Jessica Andrade. However, as of today, that fight has been canceled and now is a replacement fight. So we have Manon Fiorot going in against Katlyn Chookagian. Again, I still think this is the perfect matchup for her. She should realistically get the winner of that fight, and then the winner of their fight, Lauren Murphy versus the winner of that fight, should then go on to fight for the title. In the next fight, we definitely got fireworks, but I think we can all agree that it was a different kind of fireworks than what we were all expecting. So we had Hurricane Shane Burgos going in against Charles Air Jourdain. Again, the fight went pretty much how I thought it would to some extent. I thought that it would be a mostly standing battle. I thought that Shane Burgos would end up piecing him up on the feet, keeping him at range and looking like the much larger fighter. He did look like the much larger fighter. He did piece him up at range when they were standing at range, and the fight did not end up being a mostly contested stand-up bout. What did end up happening is Shane Burgos ended up establishing dominance via grappling. He took the back early, and he put in submission attempts, got quite a bit of control towards the end of the first round, and then as well all across the second round. The second round was actually a 10-8 for Shane Burgos. So again, there are some people online that didn't agree with the decision. I don't understand the back and forth on that, especially for this fight. It was by no means a robbery. Was it a close fight? Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. But was it a robbery? Not a chance. I clearly had the first and second round in favor of Shane Burgos. And with that second round being a 10-8 on most judges' scorecards, it doesn't really make a difference, even if that third and final round was a 10-8 for Charles Jourdain, which I thought it could have been a 10-8. He went out there and laid it all on him, like somebody that knew he was down 2 rounds and needed a finish. So what do I think is next for these two men? Charles Jourdain versus Ilia Topuria makes a ton of sense. These gentlemen were supposed to face each other back in January, but things just fell through and the fight didn't happen. I think that both men are at the perfect place in their career and at the perfect ranking placements to face each other. And also, that's another fan favorite fight. As far as Hurricane Shane Burgos is concerned, I think that a fight against Dan 50K Ige, again, makes a ton of sense. Both guys, I believe they're about 2 or 3 rankings away from one another. One's coming off of a win, one's coming off of a few losses, therefore he should fight down in rankings. Again, Shane Burgos versus Dan 50K Ige is just an absolute firefight. going into my favorite fight of the night, arguably one of the greatest comebacks I've ever seen in not only combat sports history, but just in sports history in general. Matt Danger Schnell, he's a guy that I've been a big fan of for quite some time, and to see him get a win like that is absolutely astounding. It's just incredible to see. He got dropped, he got hurt, he got rocked, every way, shape, and form you can imagine, but somehow, just like Rocky Balboa says, it's not about how hard you can hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep coming forward. And my goodness, did he keep coming forward. The guy would eat an elbow, get dropped, looked like he was out, and then just march forward like a zombie. If Chan Sung Jung is Korean Zombie, it might be time for Matt Schnell to change the name from Danger to the American Zombie, because he moved forward like a man on a mission that was not letting anything other than getting shot between the eyes stop him. He came forward with reckless abandon, got dropped numerous times, and then when he saw a shot, he landed a nasty cross to his opponent's face, Sumadarji, and he snapped his opponent's head back. There was a moment right before that where I literally was yelling at the TV, like, please, ref, just stop the fight so Matt doesn't take any more damage. And then I ate those words very quickly after when Matt showed there was still a lot of fight left in that dog. He put his head back with a cross, then he ended up getting a takedown, tried to get the ground and pound finish. The ref didn't stop it, and he ended up getting swept by his opponent. I started sweating profusely again, thinking for sure Matt's going to end up getting finished here. This is a bad situation. He's tired. He's been rocked. He's been hurt. What does he do? He ends up getting the submission. And not only that, but he puts his opponent to sleep, producing one of the nastiest pictures you'll ever see in MMA. So again, what an absolute finish and an absolute just banger of a fight. So what's next for these guys, right? We have Sumadarji. I think realistically, there are two options for him. We got Jeff Molina, who's just breaking into the top 15 rankings, and then we've got Manel Kape, who's right underneath him. I think both of those guys line up very well for Sumadarji to go up against, and I think both those fights would deliver in a big way. Again, as always on all of these fights, if you agree, if you disagree, please comment below. Let me know how you feel. Now, in regards to Matt Danger, aka the American Zombie, Schnell, who do we think he should go up against, guys and gals? I think he made it very clear who he wants to go against, and I'm not against it. He took the mic. He said he wants to go up against Mateus Nicolau, and I think that that's a perfect fight for him. They're right next to each other in the rankings, and I don't see why not. Now, in the co-main event, we had Jingliang, the Leech, going up against the King of Kung Fu, Muslim Salikhov. If you watched the previous video, I thought Muslim was going to go out there and win, and he definitely did. He won the first round, dominated the first round in my opinion, and I do think the stoppage on this one was a bit early, especially if you compare it to that last fight. I mean, we almost let two men both die in there in that last fight, and then in this one, you stop it as soon as the guy goes down and needs a couple of shots on the ground. He was still defending himself. He was actually trying to shoot for a single leg in order to get back to a standing position. But that's neither here nor there. Great win for the Leech. That finishing sequence was absolutely beautiful. I love the way that he walked him down the way he did. And I definitely look forward to seeing his next performance. Who do we think these guys should go in against next? As for Muslim Salikhov, I really don't know who we should put him up against next. He said himself he knows he's old or aging. He's on the wrong side of 35. He's an older guy in this sport, right? And coming off of a loss, he doesn't really have too many more shots at rising to the top and going for that title run. So that puts him in a very interesting predicament as to who he should face next. When it comes to Jingliang, though, I feel like we have two very, very interesting options at hand. I personally think that we should match him against somebody like a Shavkat Rakhmonov or a Gilbert Burns. Both of those men are coming off of, in my opinion, very great fights. They both stack ahead of Jingliang in the rankings, and I think he definitely deserves somebody stacked ahead of him in the rankings at this point. In the co-main event, we had Michelle the Karate Hottie Waterson going in against Amanda Lemos. I thought Michelle Waterson was going to go out there and win this fight. I thought she was going to prove a lot of the doubters wrong. I thought that it was blasphemous that she was the underdog, and I was wrong, apparently. She did win the first round. She was looking really good in the second round up until she got finished. Her opponent was wily and slick and tricky, and Amanda Lemos ended up pulling that jumping guillotine on her, got her with the standing guillotine. Michelle tried to defend it, ended up tapping out on the opposite side of the ref to where the ref couldn't see. Amanda Lemos let go, which was very admirable because we all know she could have definitely put her to sleep otherwise. And then, the ref didn't have to stop it because he didn't see it. So basically, Amanda Lemos pointed out, like, hey, she tapped out. Michelle Waterson also showing very good sportsmanship in an upset manner, basically agreed, yeah, I tapped out. The women hugged, helped each other up, and it was definitely a great fight. I definitely don't think that this should stand out as Michelle Waterson losing her stride or losing a step. Again, I think there's still a lot of fight left in that dog, and I think there's a lot of great matchups for both of these women. In regards to Amanda Lemos, I think that the best matchup in the world for her is going to be to fight the winner of Mackenzie Dern versus Yan Xiaonan. I think that those women are basically fighting for like a title eliminator kind of fight, not necessarily a title contender fight. But if Amanda Lemos goes in there and beats the winner of Mackenzie Dern versus Yan Xiaonan, that is a title contender fight. The winner of that fight goes on to definitely fight for a belt, in my opinion. And in regards to the karate hottie, Michelle Waterson, I think that she should go against one of the other women that suffered defeat on this card, Jessica Penne Pasta. She has actually fought Jessica Penne back in 2013. She won that fight via 4th round submission. However, 2013 to 2022, that's like a decade almost in combat sports, is literally a lifetime. So they're completely different competitors, completely different women. And I, for one, would love to see that fight play out in 2022 or 2023. Moving into the main event, a lot of people wanted to jump online as soon as that fight ended and say, oh man, this fight card could have been great. This fight card could have been perfect. This fight card could have been stellar, but it was marred by such an unfortunate ending, by such a freak accident, by such a fluke. Let me tell you, if I punch you and you fail to block the punch and I knock you out, that wasn't a fluke. I knocked you out. Something similar happened. In this fight, we had Brian Ortega, who's the known submission artist. He was obviously coming into this fight to either submit or take one of his opponent's limbs home with him. That's a fact, okay? The only thing that went wrong here is his opponent, Yair Rodriguez, ended up beating him to the punch. Or to be more matter of fact, Yair ended up beating him to the submission. So after winning the first round on striking, he then goes for a submission attempt, begins an armbar submission, and his opponent tries to defend the armbar, tries to escape the armbar, and while pulling his arm out, he pops his shoulder. If I'm trying to apply pressure to your arm to make you tap or submit, and you're trying to defend it, and I pop something that's attached to your arm, that's not a fluke. That's not a freak accident. I won. You lost. And not only that, I won with the move I was trying to do. I'm armbarring you. Or in this case, Yair Rodriguez is armbarring Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega tries to pull out and pops his own arm out of socket, pops his shoulder out. That's on him. Just like the Modelo commercial says, ladies and gentlemen, Brian Ortega had a choice. Or Brian Ortega made a choice. Either way, you get the point. The guy made a choice. In this sport, we have a saying. It's snap, nap, or tap. He made his choice. It was snap. So that being said, hats off to Yair Rodriguez, or again, as Chael the Man Sonnen says, Yair. Great job. I think what's next for these gentlemen is pretty obvious. For Yair Rodriguez, we have Josh Emmett, who won his last fight. Quote fingers for those of you that are listening on a podcast network and not seeing it in video form. Josh won his last fight and thinks he's ready for a title shot. Nobody other than Josh Emmett and Team Alpha Male, his gym, thinks he deserves a title shot. So what's next? You have a title contender shot, right? A title eliminator. You got Josh Emmett versus Yair Rodriguez. Winner of that fights for the belt. Loser of that, back to the drawing board. When it comes to Brian Ortega, after he nurses that injury and comes back, bounces back strong, I think there's three very viable options for him. We've got Calvin Kattar, we've got Giga Chikadze, and we've got Bryce Mitchell. Realistically, I think all three of those matchups are fun for him. Bryce Mitchell versus him would be a great grapplers exchange. Giga Chikadze versus him would be, I don't really know what that would be, but it'd be a lot of fun, I think. And then we've got Calvin Kattar, which I feel like Brian would be silly enough to try and entertain standing up and banging with him, throwing hands. And I don't know that that would end well for him. But again, it'd be a fun fight. So let me know, as always, what you thought of the fights of the event overall in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe, and smash that bell for notifications if you haven't already. And as always, thank you all so much for the support, and I'll see you next episode.